Hi everybody, this is David from Retro Gaming Replay, and today I've decided to release my Pegasus front-end tutorial. For those of you that don't know what Pegasus is, it's a graphical interface used for browsing your retro video game collection. It can be used on a lot of different platforms, Linux, Raspberry Pi, Android, Odroid, Mac OS, and Windows, of course. Now, if you found this video by mistake, or you're really not sure what Pegasus can do, you're researching it for the first time, watch a YouTube video of the system itself. I've made a few of those. You could find them on my channel. This is going to be basically install only. If you're anything like me and you need written instructions, I have a written tutorial on my website as well. I'll post a link to that website, a link to the tutorial itself in the description here, and you could follow along on the website if need be. I actually recommend doing that because there are a few sections of the tutorial where it would be beneficial to copy and paste, headers and certain things that you may want to reuse for your configuration files. Okay, let's get going here. As I mentioned before, this tutorial is only geared towards Android operating systems. So if you're installing Pegasus on Windows or Mac or Raspberry Pi or any of your other alternatives, your steps might be a little different and you may want to follow a different tutorial. Alright, so step one is going to be downloading RetroArch. As you can see, I am inside of the Google Play Store. I downloaded the APK file and now I'm installing it on my Android device. If you don't know what RetroArch is, you probably shouldn't be following along in this tutorial. But in case you're just here for information purposes, RetroArch is basically the application that is the foundation of all of your emulators. It's one application that handles every system you could think of. The systems themselves are referred to as emulators, but in this case we call them cores. As you could see me toggling through this core downloader, you could kind of get an idea of how many systems are actually available through RetroArch. Pretty much any system that's emulated standalone is also available here in RetroArch. I'll go over some of this, but there really isn't a whole lot you need to do inside RetroArch to get your system up and running. I'm only going to cover the things that I think are important to address while installing this on your Nvidia Shield TV. Okay, so number one are the drivers. So we want to go into settings, then driver, then video, and switch from GL to Vulkan. Vulkan is definitely the preferred driver here. It appears to run some of the more challenging systems better. The only other thing you need to do is set up your input or your video game controller. I have the default Nvidia Shield gaming pad, which is recognized automatically. I also have a wireless Xbox controller that was also picked up and everything was mapped over automatically inside of RetroArch. But your controller may not, and in order to do that you need to go to settings, input, and then port 1. Port 1 dictates player 1 or the first controller. Without going into great detail, you also want to set up a hotkey while in here. Hotkeys can be used for numerous things, but in this case, you'll probably want to set up a hotkey on your controller to do a few things, such as return to the front end, or return back to RetroArch to do things such as save your game or load a different save state. Because every button on your controller is usually already assigned, such as jumping or running or moving to a certain direction, you'll have to set up a series of button presses or keystrokes to do what it is you need to do with your hotkey. For example, when I want to leave the game itself and access the RetroArch menu to save my game, I'll push in the left thumbstick 3 times in a row. You can set it up however you want. Just make sure to check this section out and set up a hotkey of your own. Okay, we're all done with RetroArch for the time being. Let's move on to the next step, getting all of our media in order. There are still a few more things to do before installing Pegasus. And this is probably the only drawback to using Pegasus over something like Launchbox. An application like Launchbox has the ability to scrape and pull all of your media files directly from their database, such as the artwork, the screenshots, the video files, or the video snaps. Unfortunately, Pegasus doesn't have anything built in to do this, but they have a third-party app that's absolutely amazing called Skraper. I think it's a French developer that put this thing together, and it's pretty impressive. But we have to utilize that before going any further. So let's get going with Skraper as well as your ROM files. First off, you need the video game files, or more commonly known as ROM files. I can't tell you where to get those, but I can tell you that if you do own the games, you're legally allowed to produce backup ROM files to use as you see fit. So moving on, I keep all of my ROM files on an external hard drive that the Shield reads from. The hard drive that I personally use does not require an external power source, which is pretty cool as it draws all of its power directly from the Shield. It's one less wire to plug in, I kind of enjoy. Anyway, so moving on. If you take a look at the root of my hard drive, you will see a games folder. Inside of the games folder is each individual system and the system's game files. Skraper looks for these folders, and they look for these specific ROM files, and what they do is they scrape all of your games and they generate data, videos, screenshots, and artwork based on what's inside of the file structure itself. So next thing is to actually install Skraper. Go to their website, Skraper.net, and that's Skraper spelled with a K. It's SKRAPER.net. Okay, after downloading the program, install it, run the UI, and you'll be prompted with this configuration wizard. I don't think you need an account per se, but without registering, I don't think you'll have access to as many of the, I think they call them working engines, perhaps. But if I remember correctly, without an account, you can only download so many files at once. And if you have a lot of games and a lot of systems, you're going to probably be downloading tens or even hundreds of thousands of files. I mean, it sounds far-fetched, but it's really not. So you'll definitely want to go ahead and create an account with them. After logging in, you'll see a configuration wizard for first-time users. We're going to want to go ahead and select generic emulation. The other options are Recalbox, RetroPie, and Launchbox, and obviously we're not setting any of those up. So select generic emulation and then move forward to the next screen. The next screen lets us browse for our ROM path that we have to set. So use it to find your ROM path and then hit OK. Next, Skraper is going to inspect your ROM folders and let you know which systems it's found. In my case here, it picked up my Nintendo and Sega Genesis systems. Next, it will prompt you for media options. I don't care what you select here because we're going to alter that in one of the next steps anyway. So you could pick 4-image mix or manual and move forward. Here we have the Skraper main menu. one of the first things we need to do is go up into the upper right hand corner where you see the shield with a check mark in it, or the E. One is a basic mode, one is a more advanced mode. You want to select the mode with the shield and the check mark. That enables us to change some of the options in order to get this thing working properly with Pegasus FE. Okay, so toggle through your front end section until you find generic. You want your front end to be generic, and then move forward to the next screen. You'll see Screen Scraper Account. This is where you want to make sure you're logged in and validated. If you're not validated, you'll only have access to so many of the files at any given time. The next screen is your game list screen. The only thing you have to do here is make sure the game list type is set to emulation station gamelist.xml, because that's the file that you're technically going to have to convert to a Pegasus FE readable format in a later step. Other than that, there isn't anything else that you have to do here, but some of the options may be useful to you if you have a lot of MAME arcade ROMs. For example, you can auto-hide all of your clones or all of your hacks or demos or stuff like that, which may be useful when you have a MAME arcade ROM set with 10,000 ROMs and 2,000 of them are clones, you know. So you can also auto-exclude games like Mahjong, however you pronounce that. You could alter the list to avoid any specific games with a keyword in it. In this case, Mahjong. I have so many Mahjong arcade games that are just always there and in my face. So this is a nifty feature that lets me auto-hide all of them based on an entry here, which I think is pretty useful. Out of the three remaining screens, media is the only one we need to worry about. Metadata and miscellaneous are options that we don't need to concern ourselves with when setting up Pegasus FE, but the media tab is pretty important. So you'll go here and you'll see this is where you tell Skraper which media files to look for, and there are a lot of different options. They have screenshots, title screenshots, Steam related images, box art, 3D box art, manuals and marquees for arcade games, as well as videos, which are very important. In my case, I only needed three or four items to make Pegasus work. I wanted the video snaps, so I put them on here, screenshots, box art, as well as clear art. I think it's called wheel art in here, but you're more than welcome to grab as many different media file options as you need. Okay, the last thing you got to do is hit that big play button in the bottom right hand corner and you'll begin scraping your folders for content. In the right hand screen here, you'll see a preview of all of the files that come through as they're being scraped. Now, depending on how many games you have, this could take a while. If you had 7,000 games in your collection, it could take a few hours, but that's to be expected. This definitely competes with Launchbox's built-in scraping services. When I put my build together, I went through gigabytes of data, and this program correctly grabbed every single piece of art in my collection. When going through my games, I don't see anything missing. It got all of the artwork and videos correctly, and that's a very impressive feat. So when Skraper finishes running, it's going to generate a gamelist.xml file, and it's going to put that file in each and every one of your game folders. So your Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, PlayStation 1 folders, Each one of those folders is going to have this GameList.xml file generated in it. Our final step is to take that XML file and convert it to something that Pegasus can read. And it's not as daunting as it sounds. It takes 2 seconds. There's an online tool converter that does this for you. So if you go to the website pegasus-frontend.org/tools/convert. You'll get to the online converter. If you go to my website that I mentioned earlier on in the video and check out my written tutorial, you'll find a link to the converter as well. That's pegasus-frontend.org/tools/convert. Now, once you go to this online converter, you'll see 2 fields, one to the left, one to the right. On the field to the left is your Emulation Station 2 GameList.xml. That is the file that's generated, and it's put in each and every one of your ROM folders by Skraper. So you want to take that XML file, and you could open it up and copy and paste the contents into the left-hand side. Or I don't think you can upload it. No, you open that file up, that text file, you copy it, and you paste it into the Emulation Station side, and it will in return spit out a Pegasus metadata.txt file. You want to take that text file, download it, and then put that in the same root video game folder that was scraped by Skraper. So the good news is we're almost done. We are finished with Skraper. Technically, we don't need to use that application anymore, but we do have to modify the files that were generated slightly to make them work with Pegasus FE. So each metadata file that we created needs to have a header that's compatible with Pegasus. It sounds like a lot, but it's really not. All we have to do is add a bit of text to each one of those metadata.txt files that we just generated. Good news is I have a lot of this information on my website already, and in this video I'll show you a screenshot of what the header should look like. Now obviously you can't copy and paste the video here. So once again, check out my written tutorial, scroll down about 3/4 of the way down the page, and you'll see a header for Nintendo. Now keep in mind, you can use this same header for every single video game system. You only have to change a few fields: the collection name, the short name, as well as the libretro core file name. The only thing you have left to do is make sure that you're using the proper core name and short name. To make sure you get the right names, in the bottom of my tutorial I posted 2 links to websites that have a list of both names. Just make sure that whatever core file you set as an emulator you've downloaded while inside of RetroArch. If you don't actually have the file downloaded, when you try to load the emulator, it's going to come back blank. The last thing we have to do is install Pegasus now on our Shield. In order to do this, you have to install the APK file, but unfortunately, that's not available on the Play Store just yet. So you have to get this file from the Pegasus website. That's pegasus-frontend.org. In order to install the file, you have to be able to install files from unknown sources as well. While you're waiting for Pegasus to finish downloading, you might as well go ahead and download some themes on their website as well. While it does look pretty, they have a nice collection of themes to choose from, and you may enjoy some of those looks better. I personally prefer a theme called Game OS, which does not come with the system itself. You have to download that one individually. Now, installing the theme is as easy as downloading it and extracting it to the themes folder, which can be found inside of the Pegasus frontend. With the theme that I have running, it's called Game OS. It shows the systems up top, and it almost has like a Netflix grid style layout, and these are all customizable. The screenshots have clear art in front of them, and you could even change these to box arts. And so we actually only have one step left, and then you are finished. Remember those metadata.pegasus.txt files that we created earlier? Well, all we have to do now is tell our Pegasus frontend how to find those files. So we're going to load up Pegasus for the first time and go right to the settings. Settings, gaming, set gaming directories. This is it, guys, the finish line. All you have to do is load up each Pegasus text file and reboot. Thank you for watching my video, and I do hope you enjoy Pegasus as much as me. If this video was wholesome to you, please feel free to subscribe, like, comment, or whatever else you can do to support me. Thank you, and have a great night.